Hi, Jon Taylor.
Hey,
It's so great to see you.
good to see you, Tammy.
We're on a roll here. So I'm blessed to be able to be here again. So what have you got for us today?
Yeah, so this is something that I've been thinking about this since the beginning of the year. Dr. Adams and I did some informal research with folks who struggle with enmeshment and sexual addiction.
Okay.
We really wanted to get into what are some of the similarities and the differences in the recovery process.
Oh, interesting.
Where are some pieces of enmeshment recovery that might be very different or even opposite from what you get in your sex addiction recovery.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
we interviewed about six men who are enmeshed and addicts, two or three women who are enmeshed and addicts, and one or two partners of enmeshed individuals. And I want to focus on what one of our interviews, this is really highlighted in one of our interviews. And keep in mind that this kind of research, qualitative research, especially the way we did it, this is not the same as saying there has been a study and we know.
Correct.
What this kind of qualitative research does is it gives us better questions to start with, more clear scenarios to investigate further. So this guy in his interview, he really focused on his experience with empathy. Empathy trying to go the what he was being told in his sex addiction recovery, and empathy that he eventually got to through working his enmeshment recovery. And I suspect, again, we don't have any data on this, but I suspect that this information and these insights will be useful not just for enmeshed individuals, but I suspect that this might be a common phenomenon for anyone who is what we would call attachment disrupted or attachment compromised, or you
Oh,
could think about it as like some sort of emotional abuse in childhood may affect your ability to show up and be empathetic in a similar way. So that's what we're going to talk about today is empathy for enmeshed parentheses and other types of folks.
okay.
So first, let's talk about the place of empathy in relationships. I believe that empathy is singularly transformative in human relationships, and here's why. It's a necessary skill, and it's necessary that this goes two ways in a bonded relationship that we rely on because it's one of the few ways that an individual can feel really seen and validated. And not in the like, oh yeah, there's Joe, but like there's Joe and he's important and he's unique. Or there's Jane and she's not the same today as she was yesterday, and that difference matters. So when you think about the kind of validation we need as human beings, the name tag, hello, my name is blank. Um, while it's a nice feature, that's ultimately meaningless in our whole scope of how we feel bonded and connected and secure. So with this research that we conducted, um, and thinking about enmeshment, another thing that became clear to me in talking to all these different people is I think it's better to understand enmeshment instead of through the lens of what's your relationship with your parent like. It's better to understand enmeshment through the lens of what happens to you when there's conflict in a relationship. What happens to you when there's competing priorities between self and relationship? And enmeshment is a way of describing an individual who, through a certain configuration with their parent, as an adult, they become small, they become subservient, they become caretaking as their response to conflict, as their response to more difficult relationship dynamics, or they become angry, resistant, either immediately or eventually. And in my book, that angry resistance depends on how full the person is of the losses that come from not being connected with their own identity, their own feelings, and instead playing this caretaking role, first to a parent and later to everybody else in their life. Because that's one of the key components of an enmeshed person's identity is I fix problems. I don't need much. I'm there for everybody else. So enmeshment is also a form of abuse. where a parent flips the natural parent-child dynamic to meet their own emotional needs at the cost of the needs of the child. So there is nothing wrong with enjoying your relationship with your child. There's nothing wrong with getting something from that. It was a state holiday yesterday. My sister-in-law and her husband throw a big party at their house. I spent most of the evening in a hot tub with my toddlers. They keep the hot tub cooler, but we were having a blast playing. And every now and then, one of the kids would want to get out of the hot tub and go get something to eat or see what else was going on. And I would call them back. Hey, you want to come back and play in the pool? It's there's nothing wrong with a parent putting forward some of their needs or wants, if they give the child a chance to actually respond. So most of the time, my toddlers would get out of the pool and I'd call them back and they'd be like, yeah. And we'd, get in the pool and play, and it was really fun and relaxing. And I was getting a lot from that. And other times it was, no, I want to do this, or where's my cousin, or, whatever. And that's fine too. So it's when the parent and their needs become the higher power to the child. In other words, I must serve you according to what you've prescribed, or the universe will not be okay. There will be death and destruction. So the parent makes themselves the higher power and they enshrine themselves in their needs as such. You do not cross me or you pay, either through my withdrawal, through my anger, sometimes my violence. We'll see that happen in enmeshed relationships. So how empathy shows up in this kind of a backdrop is empathy is a feeling with. It's feeling with emotional attunement. Empathy is different than validation, which is, I see you're angry. Validation doesn't require any emotional response on your part. You look angry, you look sad. That's not the same as empathy. Empathy is feeling with. You look sad, and that makes me feel sad because I love you and I care about you. Or you look sad, and I know you're sad because of how I hurt you. So we're both having this devastated moment here, and not because I'm consumed with myself and what I've done, and wondering if I'm bad, but because I'm looking at the impact on you, and I feel sad with you. I feel a loss with you. So that's all well and good when there is no difficulty at all for a child in having their own feelings and having their own emotional experience. Kids who are lucky enough to come from a home where they're angry and a parent says, you look angry, you want to talk to me about it. Or you look sad and that makes sense to me. You need to be sad for a while. Gosh, I can see you're really excited about this. And you're excited about this thing that happens out there that I don't get to be a part of. And while my heart might be breaking that I'm not a part of that, I'm so glad that you're making a life for yourself. And I'm going to support that. I'm going to throw my weight behind that so that you get what you need. When we're not lucky enough to be a part of that, enmeshed parents don't allow their children to feel with. So the enmeshed parent can be sad, angry, lonely, joyful. But the child's job, remember, is to take care of the parent. And so if the parent is sad or anxious, the child can't be sad or anxious too. The child has to be strong. The child has to be able to show up. The child has to be able to make the parent feel better. And what happens over time is there's this template put in the child that I don't have my own feelings. I respond to and fix the feelings of others. So they care for the parent in that way, moving away and denying their own emotions, essentially erasing one of the key components of personhood, which is I feel myself and I feel others. This is what makes us different from I don't know. Actually, I take that statement back because there's a lot of research coming out that shows there is not anthropomorphization to say that non-human animals can identify and understand emotion as well, or they can respond to it as well. We don't know if they feel it the same way that we do, but we do know that it's not meaningless data. So emotions of others get encoded as a demand on the enmeshed person, or an encroachment. I've started to feel something. So whatever you've got going on, if you happen to be feeling something today, move that out of the way because I'm feeling and I'm here now, and your job is to take care of me. So the gift of individual feelings is taken and exploited. Your feelings or lack thereof are here to serve me versus these are how you find your way in the world. And me being older, wiser, stronger, and kind, my job is to notice when you're having feelings and help facilitate your full experience with those feelings. So, I've seen children before. We had a recent example of this of one of my kids. He was really sad about something, and he was sobbing, I think for the first time since he was a toddler, and you could see it was so uncomfortable in his body. You could see that the way the tears wanted to come out and the emotion wanted to come out, he was struggling not to get it out, I think to put it in because it felt so odd, to say the least. And so my spouse and I really, really worked with both of our boys. They were having one was having a response to the other one. We worked with them to normalize, to contextualize, to, well, can you feel what's happening? You put words to that. It's okay. This makes sense. This looks like such deep sadness and regret. Um, Individual feelings are a gift. It's how a person discovers themselves. And what an enmeshing parent does is everything about that kid's life is in service of the parent's needs. Those individual feelings are taken, they're exploited. Um, that's often the reason why when a partner of an enmeshed individual starts having their own feelings, the enmeshed individual can become reactive and angry, rather than empathetic. They may also shut down and get rote in their responses. So instead of a real, come here, there's a, there, pat, pat, let me move into, I'm going to get you your box of chocolates. We're going to put on your, sappy movie. I'm going to sit in bed here with you for days because that's what you do. But emotionally, I'm gone. You might as well be next to a human-shaped body pillow, rather than a person, because I'm not having an emotional experience at all. That's not what I do here. Fix your emotional experiences or help you get through yours, but I don't have my own. And that's where the partners of enmeshed individuals, I would suspect other folks who you may be married to or with somebody who has profound childhood trauma and neglect in that way. Um, that's where feeling basic emotions can feel really bad. As soon as this starts going on for me, I'm all alone, or we're not connecting in some way. Or again, I feel that rote pat pat. You are sad. Initiate protocol, and I don't feel seen. I don't feel held. I don't feel valued anymore. But if I'm fun, if I'm spontaneous, if things are light, you're here for that, just not the hard stuff. And I hope what I've laid out before, you can start to hear there's a story behind why that happens. This isn't a person making a choice. This is a person through years, decades of neglect and abuse is so disconnected from their emotional center. They couldn't give you empathy if they wanted to. And I see this with a lot of enmeshed guys I work with. They want to be able to show up for their partner. They like the idea, but it's like a file not found, or more often than not, what I'll see is this part of them that comes up and says, we'll die before we show up in that way and become somebody else's slave again. So the missing ingredient in empathy, it's not empathy, it's not feelings. The missing ingredient is that empathy is the product of two differentiated individuals. So we were humming along here, having our different experiences, and you tripped and you fell and you started to feel something, and I turned and looked at you and said, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Oh my gosh, you're hurting. And I moved towards you, not out of duty, not out of function, but because my heart said, you might need support right now, or you might be feeling something that's a lot for you to feel on your own. So I'm here. It's the product of two differentiated individuals who are reasonably attuned. So the missing ingredient is not a skill. The missing ingredient is differentiation. I'm still my own person when you feel something. For a lot of enmeshed individuals and other types of abuse, the best they get at differentiation is not my problem. I'm not having that experience. experience, which is not full differentiation, because that's that separateness while turning a blind eye and blocking out any other interaction. Real differentiation is I'm standing over here, you're over there, and I can watch you, I can feel you, and I can allow that to move me. I can allow that to interact with me because I know I'm not going to become that. I know those are your feelings, not mine. So it's safe for me to start feeling along with you because I've got the beginning, middle, and end storyline. You are sad. You are distressed. You are fearful. I can join you in that, and I know where that's going to end because it's not my fear. It's not my sadness. So I can sit with you through that. I can hold your hand through that. I can be deeply present with you, and I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole. I tell this story in the enmeshment workshops. I had a family member who was hospitalized for a psychotic break a few years ago. And normally it would be very difficult for me to show up in this way with my own background of enmeshment and that. But I sat by this family member's hospital bed in the emergency room for 3 hours, and I held their hand. I looked at them in the eye, and I could feel this person going in and out of lucidity. I could feel this person going in and out of fear and some psychotic delusional stuff. And I could do that for the 3 hours because I knew that I wasn't having my reality challenged in that way. I knew that I wasn't going to go down that rabbit hole. When I started to hear something weird or off, I wasn't thinking like, oh, is that true? I could feel like, okay, yep, you just slipped out of you're here to you're somewhere else now. There's a different storyline going on. Empathy cannot happen if you're not differentiated enough to know that your sadness is not my sadness. Your sadness is not my job. It's my opportunity. I can come alongside and feel with you. So all that to get at, here are some steps for how to start practicing differentiating in the face of intense emotion. Because remember, the missing ingredient is not a lack of skill and empathy. You can practice all the empathy skills you want. If there's not differentiation, you can't use them. So here's some ways to get differentiated in the face of intense emotions. Number one, get words to describe and identify what you or your partner is feeling or going through. So those like how am I feeling charts, those face charts, those are invaluable. Can I put a word to the face? And here's why that is helpful, because the face of the emotion, that's a right brain body connected experience. And for most people who struggle with addiction or trauma or anything like that, right brained body connected experiences are terrifying. They're really intense. That's a lot of the reason in my book why an addiction forms in the first place, is because nobody ever helped me regulate this. So the face is the right brain experience. The word is a left brain experience. This is how your right brain and left brain are supposed to work together. The right brain gives you really good raw data. The left brain helps to contain and give it form and function so that it's not overwhelming to you. So with that combination, now maybe you can see a face like this and you can recognize that's anger, versus without that ability to contextualize and talk about what you might experience as this, and you might see your angry father or your angry mother or your disappointed teacher or someone who abused you. And instead of observing, you're reliving. So first steps, get some words to help the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere work together. This is anger, this is anxiety, this is sadness, this is joy. Second, take a step back, sometimes literally. Your partner's emotions are not your experience. So those of you who are familiar with Marilyn Murray and her concept of circles of intimacy, think about it like a bullseye. The center is what I refer to as circle one. This is a space that only you and your concept of spirituality or your connection with the universe or your higher power, only you and your higher power can exist in that circle. Nobody else or nothing else can. It's just not made for them. Circle two is where your most intimate relationships can happen. So a spouse or a partner goes there, children, if you have them, goes there too. And that's not a mandate that those relationships have to be in circle two. That's as close as it can get. So your partner's emotions are at closest, they're a circle two experience. Something is happening in my relationship. Something is happening in my partner. Something is happening in the space around me, not inside of me. So for enmeshed individuals, that step back is really, really important. Step back to circle one, know what that feels like. Oh, I see you're angry. I'm not angry. You have a need. I don't have a need. So you take a step back. Remember that to stay oriented in circle two, you have to be oriented in circle one. The minute you hang out in circle two too long, you will lose your circle one orientation, and then you can't orient to anything. So it's not a matter of staying with your relationship and focusing harder or trying to work harder. It's taking a step back and giving yourself permission to get in tune with what you're feeling and thinking, what you're observing. So what am I going through now that I'm seeing this? Oh, well, this makes me really nervous, or this is pretty overwhelming for me. Or I'm still feeling pretty good. I can see you're upset, but I'm okay. Check for an enmeshment relapse. Do you become small? Remember, enmeshment, instead of describing a relationship, who do you become? Have I become small? Have I become dutiful? Do I feel anxiety and pressure that I didn't feel before? Is there a to-do list running through my mind? Do I feel demanded at? The fact that you're feeling this is an automatic must do for me. So sort through that in circle one. What's going on here? Then take several deep breaths. That would be step number 3. Take several deep breaths. And you might even need to speak to your partner during that time. I'm trying to get here. I'm trying to be here. I'm trying to stay here. I can see that this is big for you. Staying here and being here is hard for me. I'm working on that. You know, if you could put up that little buffering wheel that you see on Apple and Microsoft products, if we could just project that on our chest, that would be awesome to show, like, I'm still here, I'm just working on it. You might have to state specifically, I haven't left, I'm trying not to leave, but that's still all circle one. I'm communicating from inside out here, not communicating out here, because I'm not ready to put out any fires yet. I'm not ready to do anything yet because I'm still trying to figure out where I'm at. Step 4 would be find your own feelings as you recognize your partner's. So again, that could be, you're angry. That makes me feel anxious. You're sad. That makes me feel like I want to get out of here. You're hopeless. That makes me feel overwhelmed. Then step 5, take more deep breaths and clear your mind of how you're supposed to act. So there's where moving into roles and scripts and stuff, that can be some undifferentiation. Instead of being a separate individual, I'm now a role. You're triggered, I'm your helper. You're sad, I'm your comfort. So take your deep breaths and clear your mind of how you're supposed to act, because there's a strong tendency that you'll identify with a manager part instead of yourself. And yourself is a far more valuable asset than any skill you have. Let me put it this way. Any skill you have is greatly enhanced by the presence of yourself. So don't lose yourself. Remember, the missing ingredient is differentiation. And differentiation is not the same as rebellion. It's not the same as, like, I'm going to make sure we're different. It's noticing the differences that are there. You're feeling this anxiety at a 10. This is a 5 for me. And it's a 5 for me because you're anxious, not because of the thing itself. So you do some of that sorting out. Once you found your heart, once you found what's going on for you, and you have fully decided that you can share it, which again is not mandatory, right? No functional relationship includes guns placed at both people's heads. That's not how it works. It's not an obligation. It's not a duty. It's a choice. So once you found your own heart and you've decided that you can share a part of it, take a step forward from circle 1 to circle 2 and leading with your heart. Speak from there. That might sound like, I feel scared too. This is really overwhelming. I can see that this is big for you. I can see you're angry, and that makes a lot of sense. The words matter less than the feeling connected to it. This is my feeling that I'm connected to, not yours. My feeling may come from what I'm observing for you, but my authentic experience is what I'm feeling in response to what you're feeling. Find your heart, decide you can share it, step into that. Once you get there, once you step into circle two, remember you're not there to fix anything. That's not what empathy is about. Empathy is not this hack. It's not a to-do list. It's a quality of being together. You're feeling, and I'm willing to feel with you. So stepping into that circle two, if you have any kind of like, I'll be empathetic, and then your trigger will go away and we'll all be fine. Like, clear that expectation out too, because I think in the short run, empathy fixes nothing. In the long run, we hit the mark on empathy over and over again. That does a whole lot for a relationship. But in the short run, a lot of times I'll see an empathetic experience be like, well, I feel lost and you're lost too. Great, now we're both lost. But very quickly, remember that human need for connection kicks in, and you start to feel like, well, I'm not alone, and I can feel that. We may not know what to do, but we're here together. Experience that. Nobody's leaving anybody else, and that's transformative. So watch for feelings of guilt that you're not fixing anything. That's huge for an enmeshed individual. I'm supposed to be doing something. I'm supposed to produce something. Less is more when it comes to empathy. You don't need a plan. You don't need the right words. You need connection with your feeling, with your own heart to begin with. Once you're able to do that, then you can layer on top of that skills. Here are some words that usually help to connect with my partner. And that's specific to your relationship, not just here are the empathy words. That's robotic. That's not connected to feeling. There may be some actions. It goes a long way for my partner and me when we can embrace, or we can hold hands, or we can look each other in the eye. But again, going for those actions without the internal setup. I know where my heart is. It's here. I've chosen to give it. Those actions are hollow and they're counterproductive. So enmeshed individuals have to learn that empathy makes a win for both of us. And this is something that this guy said in the research. He said, empathy was hard for me as long as I ignored the impact of my enmeshment, and I tried to do this like a recovering addict should. That it felt like I was losing, like I was becoming subservient, like I was erasing myself every time, because he was trying to be somebody else. His enmeshment recovery pushed him back into his own feelings and his own experience. And then he could see how bringing that forward wasn't just this skill set, it was this quality of being. And he started to see it transform. And the interesting that he said was, it still feels like a self-betrayal every time. But I can now see a little further down the road and realize that taking this little risk with myself, giving this little part of myself away willingly, makes things better long term for both of us. So it's like jumping into a cold pool. The initial shock is always, it's going to make me think like, I can't do this, don't want to do this. Or, I think better for me, I'd rather not swim in a cold pool, but I'll swim in a cold lake any day. Fresh water, refreshing. But that initial like, okay, there's going to be a shock, but I'm going to get in. And once I get over that initial shock, like this becomes really nice. I'm glad that I did it. And so that's another thing that stood out that we want to investigate more, is that feeling of maybe it never feels natural. Maybe it never feels like I can't wait. But it's this orientation. If I can get over the initial shock where I feel like I'm giving too much of myself away, or that I shouldn't be giving myself away, and I can realize that when I mindfully give parts of myself to my partner, it helps both of us long term. So that is empathy for enmeshed and other types of folks.
So I've got some questions. Like in number 5, when you talk about, I'm supposed to be your comfort, and like that's the feeling, that can be slipped into. And I'm going like my suspicion is the partners are like, yes, you are supposed to be my comfort. So how do you overcome when, like I'm trying to, like that would be my automatic response because I'm enmeshed, and the betrayed partner is like, yes, I want you to be my comfort. Like how do you Yeah. How do you stop that
So,
or
so
help?
this has me thinking about my 2-year-old for some reason does not sleep through the night anymore. And it's not just like one waking up in the middle of the night. It's like a newborn again. It's like every couple hours.
Oh, wow.
And what I really want to do is be able to trick him with a big, soft, stuffed animal and slide that in so he can cuddle up with that and feel like, okay, somebody's here, everything's fine. But man, that kid is too smart. Like it's like he can sense a heartbeat or he can smell or he just knows when it's a person versus an inanimate object. So I think of that with that question, Tammy, because yeah, you should do something, but it's not your actions. It's not the gift card that you give that's the meaningful gift. It's the presence of your heart. It's the presence of your attention, which is really not something you know the difference between a quality of attention for somebody who is like, hey, I have to watch this versus somebody who says, I'm really here. And so yeah, you have to do something, but here's the enmeshed individuals will jump quickly to the action and they'll leave their heart at home because they've had to protect it. So it's that decision again and again every single time. Am I going to bring my heart out? And what parts of my heart am I going to bring out? And how am I going to bring that to bear here? And for a lot of partners, we'll hear from them like, yeah, it takes longer than I would want it to. I wish that my partner was faster at this, but when they're not faster at this and they really take time, I get something better. I get what I want in the long run. So if it's a choice between getting what I want or getting something fast, I'll wait a couple seconds. We
Yeah.
heard that from some of the partners too, and that was a reorientation from them from traditional addiction treatment models or partner trauma models even. Is I found with my enmeshed individual, my enmeshed partner, when I would do this to them, it would make it worse and make it inaccessible. When I could take a breath too and recognize there's a process here. It's not straightforward. It's not easy. My partner has to make a choice. Yeah, but once he's made that choice to give, I know I have it. That makes sense.
Yeah, well, and the automatic that, I want to fix it, that's so tempting because like then we can all be better and like we can move on, so like this feels like I need to be intentional and slow everything down. You even shared take deep breaths, and I thought, yeah, because then we're getting, we're giving ourselves, a few moments to, kind of think, with our thinking part of our brain, like when you talked about it's not my problem. Like I thought, like, and that feels like if I can make it not my problem, then I can completely detach and I don't have to engage, and so it's either I'm all in with the enmeshment or I'm completely detached, and kind of like we're saying, be connected, and that's the middle, and but it's probably really challenging to not just flip the switch and go, well, it's easier just to go, yeah, not my problem.
One of the things that makes vulnerability darn near impossible for enmeshed individuals is um, something that makes vulnerability functional is both people having a ripcord of their own.
Mm.
I can do this, I can be here until I can't anymore. And I can pull that cord and I can close off my heart and I can step out of this. Um, that may sound awful to have that possibility in a relationship, but without that choice, it's dictatorship. It's not a real relationship with choice. So the ability to leave or step away informs the ability to step in and be present. So for an enmeshed individual, it is not their experience that they have a hand on the ripcord. It's once I show up, I'm in for all of it. And there is no reworking the agreement. I certainly couldn't say to my partner when they're feeling something big, sweetie, I'm here for you, and this is so much. My heart is racing. I need to stop and breathe for a minute. Or, we've been having this conversation for 5 hours, and I'm so sorry. I am so hungry. And you get a snack. Do you want something to eat too? Like, let's attend to that, and let's come back to this. For a enmeshed individual, that is like speaking Martian. It almost doesn't exist. So to step in, you have to have the ability to step out. You have to know that like I'm in charge of my own contribution here. It's not about demand. It's not about if I don't get this right, you'll be angry. It's I'm here to help, And I have what I have, and when I don't have it, I will let you know, and we'll figure it out.
So somebody said, thank you for doing these. I take a lot of notes. You and me both, So, um, uh, like, and you talked about erasing the personhood, and like that makes me want to cry because I was like being erased, like but like even I feel so small, like. So how inconsequential, and I just don't matter. But as you're sharing, the enmeshed parent or whomever, the other relationship, is all consuming. Now I had a question because when you talked about like, yes, becoming small, subservient, caretaking, or angry, and I thought the things that I think show up, for me are I have enmeshment, and so therefore I'm angry with my partner. Like it comes out that way, So with a parent, I'll do the caretaking. I have to do everything, but over here, it comes out sideways. Is there any data from your little? I know
Yeah.
it wasn't a official research project, so.
So the mechanism is that it's rarely have I seen with an enmeshed individual, unless it's like this person's not going to get better. Rarely have I seen with that person that the way they take care of their parent is this, like, this is exactly what I want to be doing. It's more like it was never a choice here. This is just what you do.
Right.
And so when this person does get to a relationship that is based on choice, which is what our romantic and bonded relationships are, is again like nobody had to do this, nobody had to be here. We're choosing this. Um, when choice is an option, because the no can't exist in the family of origin, which it should. Like when your toddler starts saying no, as annoying as that is, you should really facilitate that and respect that, because no is so important. It's how we differentiate between me and you. First way we differentiate between me and you. So in those relationships of choice, it's all no's, reactively, reflexively. It's no more choosing than it is choosing to say yes and show up
Mm.
for the parent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. That's helpful. So, yeah, like this is a really great topic. I'm very glad you brought it up. We've got some questions, so let's. Wow, it's very sad how lack of parenting saps the humanness out of our kids, acting as if making a decision to it's long term for their partner. Their lack of feeling from the heart is hard to accept. I think part of staying with an enmeshment is accepting that they are acting as if, and like, we talk all the time too about like, like the parents, yes, enmeshment, lots of problematic things, and probably doing the best they can, with, like there's reasons, all of that was happening back then. So, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this last day, I think part of staying with the enmeshment is accepting that they act as if. I'd say yes, accepting that like this happens. This is part of the package deal right now. Um, in I think DBT, dialectical behavior therapy, they talk about how acceptance is the first step of change. So if you have a room in your home that you're in all the time and you hate the color that the room is painted, that will not change until you accept this room is purple and I hate purple. So right here, accepting, like, yes, you'll do a lot of acting as if, and reconciling with those feelings, that doesn't feel any better to me than it feels to you. So what I'll see in relationships where there's effective enmeshment recovery going on is when the enmeshment slips into his role, his partner can say something like, "Hey, I'm not interested in your duty.
Mm.
I'm not interested in you checking the boxes. I want your heart. And if you've got to take a minute to decide whether or not you want to give that, please do. And if you don't, let me know. We can work with that. Um, but it's accepting that that happens, and it's saying from today forward in our relationship, we're not going to live without our hearts present here. And if that's a struggle for both you and I, instead of trying to hit that target so much that we miss it because we're drawing and lining up too fast, like let's take the time to line it up. Let's make sure that what we're saying yes to is a hell yes. Because in my book, when it comes to relationships, if you're not feeling hell yes, it probably needs to be a hell no until
Oh, interesting.
you
Okay.
come around or you figure it out. Because that's where a lot of that ambivalence can come from. That's where a lot
Mm-hmm.
of like I overpromise, underdeliver can come from, is like, well, I'm supposed to say yes, so I'll say yes, but I'm really not behind it.
Hmm. And so if you're the partner of someone who's saying for the moment, hell no, like what are some tips or help to give betrayed partners to help
So
them navigate that?
so on both ends, if you're the enmeshed individual and right now it's a hell no, you need to say, I'm not fully behind that, but I would like to be. I either need more information or I need some time or I've got to work through some feelings that are preventing me from getting on board. Like, please give me some time. I'll get there. I want to get there, but I need to actually get there, not just pretend that I'm there. So it's not all on the partner to hold that. And again, I think for the betrayed partner, one thing that trauma is famous for doing is it has us playing the short game, not the long game.
That
So
makes sense.
if in the short term it's high anxiety and I need you to do this now, you can either have quality or speed, but you can't have both.
Hmm.
So you really have to look at what is it that I actually need here. If I need you to show up and I don't, quality is not as important as the speed. You can probably get your partner to show up, but then you have to deal with on the back end this may not be quality. We would be gambling if it was quality or not. So even for a betrayed partner, you have to contextualize what you're needing. And somebody said something to her about limits. Thank you for acknowledging or explaining that all people have limits. Um, you have to acknowledge that there's a limit, and I can only get so much speed or quality up front, and I really have to make a decision about what I'm going for long term because people
Yeah.
have limits, and a betrayal, even a fundamental betrayal like sex addiction or infidelity, you may have deserved someone more capable all along, but just because you deserve it and they should have been doing it all along doesn't mean that they can just do it like that. It's a process. Growth happens step by step. And I don't say that to let anybody off the hook. It's more to calibrate to what real change and real growth looks like. It's development. I always say with treating enmeshed individuals, like we're constructing a person from the ground up. It's not we're digging through wreckage. Finding it's like a person never existed there. We're building that from the ground up, and that takes a lot of time.
And that's a great analogy because you're right. The person never existed. And people go, I want what we had before. And I go, no, no, you don't. That was, a facade and
Yeah,
everything. And it does, you really don't want that.
flare without fire.
It just felt better because I didn't know, and
Right.
but it's kind of the short game like you were talking about. It's like then I would feel better in the short term, but in the long haul, it will be, more
Yeah.
painful. So okay, so yes, thank you for explaining all people have limits and the addict to say no makes it a real relationship. Absolutely. But like what we were talking about with the, taking away your personhood if you can't choose. Can enmeshment occur in the womb?
So whenever we talk about enmeshment or the relationship between children and mothers, there is a tendency to pathologize closeness and to pathologize care. There is nothing wrong with metaphorically loving your baby to death. In fact, I think it's really, really good for a baby to have lots of love and positivity and support. And even, my wife and I talk about this all the time with our kids in various different stages. Like, I'm obsessed with this kid right now. Like, I can't get enough. There's nothing wrong with feeling that. And, enmeshment is not about a mother over identifying their male child with femaleness. It's not that at all. It's again, remember, it's that the parent makes themselves the higher power. So in that way, I don't think enmeshment can occur in the womb. I do think that stories about what this child needs to be or what this child is, we can create a spot in our families for a child that is not about who the child is, but is about what the family needs or what the parent needs. And so the stage can be set for enmeshment even before a kid is conceived. when I become a mother or I become a father, I'm going to have kids who are just like this, and that's going to mean this for me. Like that sets the place. And remember, kids don't have a lot of agency in who they are. It's less a matter of like this kid's just going to be who they are, and it's more a matter of like this kid has potential, and you have to set up the environment with just enough structure that the kid's sense of self doesn't fall apart, but not so much structure that their sense of self is stifled by your expectations. So, short answer, no, it cannot occur in the womb, but you can certainly start setting expectations and storylines for a kid that they will feel.
So the next one, this is incredibly relevant and helpful talk. Was there a resource mentioned for the study research with the reference enmeshment addicted male, or our internet dropped a few minutes and we missed a chunk? We're also taking lots of notes, and we're grateful we can rewatch this webinar.
Yeah, no, there's not, because this is informal research we did. Dr. Adams and I are working on some videos and some other ways to present more of this, and hopefully we're going to do more of it too. It was really great to sit down with people over a decade who we've been helping with enmeshment and talk to about that. So it's not published. We're going to be pumping out more videos through overcomingenmeshment.com, but that's that's a project we're hoping to have underway by the end of the year.
Well, and I think like, yes, it's so, because if we always, and we, sorry, multiple thoughts going on at the same time. We've talked before about how, lots of CSATs will identify everything as sex addiction because that's what they know. And so like we're going here, if you just approach this from a sex addiction lens, the tools that you use that work great for sex addiction may not be workable. So doing the deeper work, which is the job of every good therapist, is to really help identify what is going on, and if they're qualified to help with it, great. Otherwise, refer out. So I respect therapists who are willing to do the deeper work, help them dig and figure out what really is going on. So okay, so the next one, I love this. Hell no, as a partner, I'm actually pumped that I get a no. At least it's reality.
8 or 9 times out of 10, and this blows and mesh people's minds. 8 or 9 times out of 10, your partner feels this way.
I'm kind of shocked too. So thank you.
I don't have a problem with the no so much. I might have a problem with the way you say it, but like when you give me a real no, that's exactly what I feel like. All right, you're here.
Mhm.
Great.
But I liked how you framed it of like, like for me right now, this is a no. I need more information. I need time, whatever. So it's not like I'm dismissing you and any request,
So
or not my problem,
that's an immature no, just like when I offer my toddlers some food they haven't seen before, and it's like
Yeah.
automatically the worst thing, and why would you feed me this poison? And they know nothing about it. That's an immature no versus that's an I'm not sure right now, or it's a no for now. I might be open. I'm open to exploring that more, but I've really got to put my yes on my timetable because I don't know. I don't know what this is for me.
So the womb follow-up, meaning the man was already designated as the golden child to save her from a crappy marriage.
Yeah, in that sense, and like we talked about, yes, that can happen even before a kid is conceived.
Okay, we look forward to yours and Dr. Adams' videos. And then the next one, in groups for partners, some men are faster to make agreements. This enmeshment thing is helpful as for me, enmeshment, they may need more time. This is helpful. And I like, again, and even, kind of a different approach.
Be careful to differentiate too, because just because someone needs more time to make commitments does not mean they are enmeshed. That's not the one diagnostic criteria, but it's something to look at. If I have a partner who commits fast and doesn't follow through, if I have a partner who you can look at the enmeshment criterion in silently seduced or when he's married to mom. But this one factor does not mean somebody's enmeshed, but it's helpful to start looking beyond why isn't this happening fast, especially if over and over again it's not happening fast. It can be helpful to look at are there some factors we're not taking into account, but not excuse, but help us understand why this isn't a quick jump.
Well, and sometimes it's not even enmeshment, but other things. So yes, just having one slice of it, and well, if we fix this, and I'll relate that to like substance programs. Like lots of people have co-occurring, addiction issues. They go off to an SUD program, and it's like if they just fix the substances, then everything is going to get better. And the reality is no. And so this is a many layered thing, and we have attachment wound work groups and inner child groups. All of those things help put things together in a different way and shed light on things so that people can look at. I shared on a webinar the other day, I have a massive abandonment wound. Who knew? But now I do. And so when that's getting poked, I go, oh, that's your abandonment wound getting poked. And I don't have to go down the merry path of like, oh my gosh, everything's, like your toddler. I can go, oh, that's my abandonment wound getting poked, and I'm going to go take care of myself in a healthy way. So all of this is, it's not just one little narrow thing, looking at, yes, this is the overarching really big problem right now. And this is a journey, life is a journey. So this is a path that can give really good, positive change individually and for relationships. So how does the SA jargon of take the next right step, how does this mess with that? And I'm not 100% sure. You seem, you're nodding your head. Go for it.
Oh yeah, I'm actually really glad that this observation came up, because
and it's
one
continuing.
of the things that overall came out of our research is that if there is enmeshment and sex addiction, enmeshment is not an interesting diversion to go look at some point. It needs to be the main course. It's its own thing. So this is like, I think about some of Dr. Rob's groundbreaking work in gay men and sex addiction. You cannot take an out of the box approach with gay men and sex addiction, because there are some key differences where what they might hear in the standard rooms of recovery would really hurt them, really block them from the recovery that they need. So this understanding that there are some key differences here, and not all sex addiction advice or approaches are indicated here. So first, and this is how it is with a lot of different things that I treat professionally, is there has to be a differentiation. Sometimes there is an order in which we treat things. So enmeshment has to come first, because a lot of what's in SA and 12 steps presupposes differentiation. It's just not there for enmeshed individuals, and they're not going to get it by running at it over and over again. They really have to get the narrative right. They have to get the setup of the problem right, or they won't.
I was thinking about this with like complex medical issues. It's like, what's the biggest crisis? Well, if your kidneys are failing, your kidneys, I mean, like, it's like we treat this, and then you have to keep doing it. So it feels like that. It's like, what is the biggest issue? And like with co-occurring substances, you can't do sex addiction work if you're constantly high. So stop the substances, and then so there are layers to all of this. And I love the 12 steps. Everybody knows that's heard me before, and you do work the steps, but you have to be ready to do that. You have to have a plan, and it isn't just do this and then this and then this, and then you're going to have these magical, fantastical results. It's like, what does each individual need, which is, I love our Seeking Integrity residential program, because we look at this from an individual basis. So, okay, we've got 2 more minutes. There's another one. So appreciate you both, Enmeshed SA here. I was struck by the idea of building a person from the ground up. Me too. In conjunction with that, what will this child mean for the family? Prognostications of the parents. It's possibly accurate to say uncovering a person, meaning I may have stifled my personality, but it was always there. I may be asking this because building a person sounds scary, like I'm standing out in an abyss.
Yeah, how a person is built is we're not blank slates. I think Rousseau was the philosopher that said we're blank slates. We're not blank slates. How a person is built is their unformed initial reactions are reflected back to them. So yes, uncovering a person is a good way to put it, but it's not like you are a marble statue waiting to emerge. It's like there's little indications here. So this little part, that's going to become a nose, but only if we treat it like a nose. This little part's going to become a hand, but only if we treat it like a hand.
Okay,
that's what we think.
we're gonna end now because otherwise we're gonna get cut off, and I don't want you to be mid-sentence. So, okay, so come back, everybody. Thank you. This is fantastic. We'll get this
Thanks,
video
everybody.
posted yet today. Bye.
Bye.